You're listening to the APSE podcast, the Association of People Supporting Employment First, with your host, Chris Davies. Today's podcast is brought to you by Reach for Resources, a nonprofit providing individualized, competitive employment services for people with disabilities. We believe our community is a better place when it is inclusive and everyone, regardless of ability, has the chance to be successful. Learn more at reachforresources.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Minnesota APSE podcast. This is episode 6 in season 4, and we are so excited to have Jeff Smith back with us and Scott as well. And today you're in for a real treat. We're going to learn a lot more about Jeff's professional life as the amazing Jeffo, and we're all very excited to be here with you two back again for this wonderful podcast. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. And before we get that roller coaster going too fast, I do want to make sure that anybody out there that's never heard of APSE, or Minnesota APSE, knows what we're all about. So we are truly the only organization in the country that is solely dedicated to promoting customized, integrated employment for all. Same wages, same jobs. We believe that indeed employment is the avenue out of poverty and isolation. We are a national organization, and we have about 30, how much are we up to now, producer? 30, 35, 30, what? I can't understand your math with your hands there. 40, we have 40, sorry. We have 40 state chapters. Boy, I went to sleep and I woke up and we have 40 state chapters. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, it's exciting. And obviously we have one in Minnesota, and you're witnessing a big part of what we do with the Minnesota podcast. So before we get into it, and Jeff has some great things he's going to say to get us started here today, just want to do a visual description of today. I am a white male, red beard. I'm bald. Today I'm wearing kind of an Aloha shirt. I feel like Aloha Friday should be back. And it's kind of blue and black, and I got some blue jeans on. So I'm going to ask Jeff and Scott to please describe themselves.
Well, first of all, because we're later in the whole process of things, I have a few less hairs, except in my ears. I have my ears hang down a little lower, and but also I have to say that, and I think it's from the first 2 podcasts, I just feel like I have grown so much as a result of the influence of Chris.
Yeah.
And
You're on cushions.
I'm on cushions.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, that probably has something to do with it.
I love it.
And I am a white male, grandpa type. I'm proud to have 3 grandchildren. I've got a white beard, hair is gray, and I like eating good ribs.
Don't we all, Scott? Don't we all?
You have good ribs.
Yes.
That's good to know. It's good to know. If I ever need a good rib, I know where to go.
You got it.
So you have such a sparkling vest on today, Jeff, and bow tie. You're definitely dressed for the moment here, aren't you?
Well, it's one of my amazing Jeffo vests. I have more vests than well, I shouldn't be political, so let's move on. But this vest is to represent the amazing Jeffo side of me, and I may have mentioned this before, but to clarify, it's Amazing Jeffo is my stage name, not to be confused with Amazing Jello, because I'm not that wiggly. But anyway, so this is going to tie in nicely later on, whether it's this podcast or maybe the next, with a big magical surprise.
Oh, boy. Can hardly wait. All right. So let's get rolling. So Jeff has some things you'd like to say, right, to kind of set the stage before we get into the questions.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to step back a little bit before we move into the professional persona. And talk about a couple things that I meant to say earlier, and that is something that I wanted to throw out there that just might help people, some people who may at this time be going through the process of losing their vision. I remember when I was about 12 years old, before rheumatoid arthritis spread in both my eyes, listening to a radio interview of a guy who was blind. And I distinctly remember thinking, wow, going blind would be like the worst possible thing that could ever happen to somebody. Well, at that time, I obviously was letting fear of the unknown affect my reaction. And I say fear of the unknown because at that time I wasn't aware of all the resources I would be available to me, such as state services for the blind and vision loss resources, combined with all the supporters and encouragers who would come along as my life progressed, being blind. And that reminds me, you know by now, Chris, I like to joke. I like to express my worldview through humor for a lot of reasons, and I'll go into that as we continue on. But it is no laughing matter going blind. I'm not trying to imply anything like that. And going blind is a tough situation, but how I've always approached it is by using humor whenever possible as a coping mechanism, and to break the situation down into smaller increments, which is like taking one step at a time, which is also like a short-term solution. So an example that comes to mind is when I was in a mobility training program. They had me at the corner of a very busy sidewalk, Lyndale and Franklin, if anybody knows about that. And
I know it well.
Yeah, I was waiting, listening for the traffic on my left to start moving, because I've been taught that parallel traffic is what a blind person, or what's the signal to safely cross the street. Well, what I didn't know is there was a deaf-blind person along my left side who was wanting to cross the street. And as I'm no expert, but as I understand it with the blind deaf, what they've been trained to do is to flash a card in front of an able-bodied person saying, "I am deaf-blind, and may I take your arm to assist me across the street?" Well, he thought I was assisting him, and I thought he was assisting me as he grabbed onto me, and we, began our journey. And this monitoring this mayhem was my mobility teacher trying to stop traffic from both directions.
Oh boy!
So as we crossed, he was creating too much ballast on my left, and but it wasn't exactly the right time to stop and discuss it right in the middle of this intersection. So we proceeded to cross the intersection diagonally. And that also reminds me of another time where, as I look back on it, it's a funny story, but it wasn't funny at the time, and it could have been a very dangerous situation. Again, it was another time that I was waiting to cross a busy intersection. It seems like they were doing that on purpose. Okay, well, anyway, so I started crossing, and a big, like a semi, to my right was revving its big engine to have a quick start when the light turned green.
Oh boy!
And I unconsciously moved to my left slightly, and it doesn't take very much. A slight move can really change your ultimate
trajectory.
Oh, yes.
And destination. If Columbus had veered just one degrees, we would all be speaking Eskimo. So, I mean, Minuet or something? I don't know. Yeah. But I'm trying to be PC here.
That's okay, roll.
Okay, so anyway, so I completely missed the opposite crosswalk and ended up walking up the center line of DuPont Avenue thinking this has got to be the widest dang street in the world.
Oh, boy.
And cars were zooming both directions to my left and right. And now that I think back, I probably shouldn't have had that beer right before my lesson, because at the time I weighed only 88 pounds.
Oh.
It was a hot day, and I had an empty stomach. It probably had something to do with it. So
I would say so.
Yeah. So, lastly, talking about handling the unexpected. About 9 years ago, I had a severe fracture of my femur. It was a complete breakthrough, but not in the good sense of breakthrough. And I thought my career was over as a magician because I kept getting stress fractures, I guess they call them. And the healing process had already been well over a year. And one day a friend told me on the phone, she just off the top of her head said, "Jeff, why don't you just do your show from a wheelchair?" And I, automatically dismissed it. But then it occurred to me that what she's proposing isn't all that different or even as big of a challenge as it was during my very first steps in trying to become a magician. So as I did at that point, I again looked at the situation in a way where I could grasp it. I guess sure. The whole absurd concept of me, someone blind doing a visual art form, someone who has a history of stuttering, being a public speaker, and someone with bent up wrists and fingers doing sleight of hand.
Sure.
It was what's the word? Excited me in a perverse sort of way, but that's
kind of a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Well, challenge, yeah. But also it was exhilarating just imagining how that might look, and that I could play off of that. So
Jeff, I want to ask you more about unexpected challenges too in a minute. But do you mind if I just say? I just want to say for anyone out there, the story that you opened up with was so useful for not only anybody that might be, in the process of losing their eyesight, but anyone who is going through adversity or challenges, those lessons that you just talked about and your approach, could really be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
You talked about humor, and I wanted to ask you, more about these unexpected challenges and how humor really, has sustained you through those.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that by necessity, by whatever, just trying to survive the unexpected things in my life, I had to look at them in a small, step-by-step manner and look for a very short-term solution. It may be a very small solution, but by consciously focusing on taking it one step at a time and making fun of the situation, poking fun at it, I surprisingly received positive reactions from people, medical people, and because they naturally, given that I also had a complexity of disabilities, they looked at me in somewhat a pitiful way. I mean that in a sympathetic way, but I, of course, always look for empathetic, for people to laugh with me or to treat me as a person first who has disabilities. So by their positive reaction to me poking fun at my situation, I felt more of a sense of control. And could I give an example of that?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Please do, yeah.
Well, one time en route to surgery, I think it was an abdominal surgery, a resection of my colon. I was a late teen. I was commenting how I read about a proctologist who accidentally, in the process of surgery, connected this poor guy's sphincter muscle to his optic nerve, and from that point on, he had a shitty outlook on life.
Oh boy!
Is this a family show? Okay, sorry.
Let me say, you had a lot of
beep.
You had a lot of positive support.
Yeah.
Friends, family.
Yeah.
Correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, absolutely. It was something that I depended on with their strength, and I was able to, deal with it to carry on. But it took a lot of little steps along the way.
Mm-hmm. And did your friends really, kind of, would you say, finally helped you end, as you would say, your fruitless cycle of seeking employment?
Right. At that time, I think it was about 1991, I had reached a point where I thought I would never get a job and to ultimately be independent. And I felt like the world was using smartphones, and I was using a telegraph machine. Yeah. So there's an old saying that I think Thomas Edison said it, that necessity is the mother of invention. But, that applies to limitation is also the mother of invention, because it forced me and my friends to examine short-term solutions and look at things from a different point of view. And that's what my friends did, because they were as frustrated that I could not land a decent job or any type of job. And they helped me change my viewpoint from what everyone was saying, including the experts, the vocational experts, no names, but they were saying, in what field could Jeff find work? Whereas my friends who knew me so well and knew my strengths, my types of character qualities that would be useful in employment, such as having a sense of humor,
creativity.
Creativity, loving the limelight, and having a desire to teach. They helped. They thought, well, what jobs would fit Jeff's skill set?
Sure.
And then I started thinking in those terms, and began thinking less about my weaknesses and more about my strengths. And that, gave me that little catalyst. Is that the word?
Yeah,
okay.
Catalyst.
Kick in the pants?
Yeah. Well,
pants, sure.
To start thinking, I think this magic thing might actually be a good fit for me. And so then they, from a practical point of view, my friends were excited about this line of discussion and put it into action by just putting piece by piece those little steps that I was talking about.
Sure, yeah.
And help me. Well, first of all, you got to look like a magician. And I said, well, I don't look at all. But no, never mind, Jeff. So they took me to a tux store and got me looking real snazzy. And
kind of like today.
Well, yeah. Okay. Although I can't quite button it today.
It used to button.
Yeah.
Well, you did say you had grown. So.
Oh, that's true. Vertically, horizontally, every shape. But so they, a secretary who worked for the Darts Transportation, which is kind of an arm of the Metro Mobility, she was a great artist and created at her desk for me my logo of a blind bunny rabbit wearing sunglasses climbing out of a magician's hat with a white cane above his head that was shooting out stars and materializing the words, "Amazing Jeffo."
Wow.
And then they, my friends use the yellow pages. Is that like a foreign language?
Yeah, for you kids out there, that's how we used to find people's numbers.
Yeah. It's not that your dog used it to relieve himself. But they... looked for names and phone numbers at churches and other nonprofits and schools.
Wow.
And so I came up with a real short script. My dad helped me with that because he was a business writer.
Yes.
But and then they took the next step after then out of the woodwork came an old friend, although from high school, and she claimed that I knew her in high school, and I got a good memory, and I have no knowledge of her. But she was a graphic artist, and I started working with her, and she created mailing pieces for me, in which I could write advertising based on my degree in advertising and
isn't that when you...
my internship? But then here, just let me, excuse me, but let me just say that they also helped me to pick out tricks that played big, but
that's what I was going to say. Isn't that when you met Larry and
yeah, right. That had no skill required. Yeah, exactly. There are two local dealers here in town. I'll talk more about later, but it's like Houdini found that the tricks that people loved the most were so easy for him to do. These escape tricks, where they lock them up and nail them in a case.
Oh, yes, I remember those.
Yeah, whereas the tricks that he had to really work at, like card tricks and things like that, they were really difficult. People say, ho-hum, ho-hum. So that's really what's important, what the audience sees, not that you fool somebody, but you want them to be just entertained, impressed, and wowed. So we looked for tricks that were simple to do, and my friends also helped me adapt them with little braille stickers or sewing in a teeny little button to make sure that I'm holding something the right way from it to the audience point of view. So all these factors were key factors, because you can talk a lot about concepts, and but until you have a hands-on kind of thing and try them out, then it's just not going to work right. When I'm practicing magic tricks, I can't just talk the script, but I have to be holding things for that muscle memory. And so right then and there, that built in me enough confidence, I guess, to make me decide I am going to give this magic thing 1 year.
Wow.
My best effort, and see what happens.
And we are now 29 years later.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
30?
29 years old. That's right.
That goes with, I'll let the audience decide.
And you do have a lot of blind listeners, correct? Excellent. 29 years later, over 4,000 shows.
Wow.
I was, I'll talk about what free publicity did for me later, but it was just amazing. Like, there was a niche.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to I mentioned my dad. I kind of wanted to mention a little bit about my family.
Sure.
How supportive they were in their own, weird way, because families are weird,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every family.
I mean,
we all think we're the only ones, but let's be real.
And they love me in a sort of high functional way.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's better than dysfunctional.
Your family didn't treat you with kid gloves.
Oh, no, they didn't. And even my little 5-year-old flower girl niece was well trained by the examples that her uncles showed. But I was going to say, my mom was a corporate secretary, or had been a corporate secretary, and my dad was, like I said, a good business analyzer and writer, and like I talked and wrote way too wordy for him, and but he's right. He was right. He had a lot more experience with that, and so they critiqued my writing pieces before I mailed them out, had them produced, and then my brothers, I had 3 brothers and a sister, and we, gave no allowance to one another. We just learned to we loved each other, but we expressed it with bats and whips and stuff like that. But as in my upbringing, we all would give each other such a hard time that I learned kind of a smart aleck approach to my world and learn to ad-lib a lot, because you got to have a comeback when they rib you, you know.
Yeah.
So that helped me better connect with future audiences, because again, they didn't look at me with this, this smart aleck young guy with pity, like, that poor blind magician, he can't even see what he's doing. But they, focused, it helped them it brought out the focus on my personality, my humor, my spirit of life, enthusiasm, and of course the messages always tied in.
Yeah.
So I started doing magic the very next year in '92, and I'll talk about more how what really kick-started me. But I want to mention that I was regularly booking shows, and my advertising was, way more impressive looking than I really was. But that's why I was had too poor of a self image to really charge much. But one day I asked my dad, how much money do you have to make before your tax? And he said, oh, don't worry about it, Jeff. You have to earn at least $8,000. And he was a very preoccupied guy, with his affairs. And I said, well, Dad, last year I think I made around $20,000. And he said, you did?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to start charging you rent.
There you go.
So that was a motivation for me to move out on my own. And, for all I know, maybe he planned that on purpose. He said that.
I love it.
On purpose. But my friends, I just wanted to back up a little bit, that my friends, they kept encouraging me, because they saw that I just had a lot to give, and they always said, well, Jeff, at least try. And they talked to me very bluntly, like they were my second parents or something. They said, at least try, Jeff. Well, one of my favorite old sayings is from Henry Ford, who said, whether you think you can or think you cannot, you're right. Yeah. And but I had to try, Yeah.
Jeff, would you be open to me giving you some of my observations of those stories about your friends and family?
Sure.
When you talk about the role your friends had in you getting started, and you started talking about, with their help, focusing on your strengths and all the things you can do, and they really rally behind you.
Right.
It is truly all the same tenets that lie in customized employment, what we believe so firmly in APSE. So to see you organically talk about that and how your inner circle really propelled you and believed in you, and it sounds like your family didn't treat you as less than. And they had expectations. And that created, I think, it sounds like that really helped you create a mindset. And in fact, you even went to college, right, and got a college degree?
That's right, yeah.
Do you feel that helped you become a magician?
Absolutely. I mean, at that time, I had no idea of how God was leading my life. But it really, to learn that knowledge of advertising, first of all, prepped me to change my mindset. Not only did my, friends help me start thinking of my strengths and my natural skills, but advertising school, the School of Advertising, School of Journalism, I guess, at the U of M, taught me to to think about magic and where I was in a way where you take a negative in advertising and you find and you turn it into a positive by finding a unique selling proposition, as they say. So I kind of used that principle to create my own niche market and look at, and thought to myself, I could really corner the market on this. I mean, this field is wide open. I could, I've already accomplished the hardest part by being blind. I mean, you're nothing as a blind magician unless you're blind, right. And that's the hard part, right?
And the competition was not too stiff.
No, I mean, no, but exactly, yeah, right. I mean,
like
that was
you had a niche.
That's right, yeah. And a nephew too. Don't forget about that. Yeah. So
I usually say niche. I don't know why I said niche.
well,
Is it niche or niche?
my wife speaks French. Devin speaks French, and she corrected me. It's niche.
Oh well, that was for you, Devin.
Yeah. Although, as much as I am, I had a little French toast this morning, but that's my depth of French.
Let's talk about some of those advertising copyright things.
I started coming up with like catchphrases and slogans and that people really responded so well. Like one of my slogans, I guess when I start a show, I say, I am America's only blind magician, as far as I can see. And then I'm going to hand the microphone, as it were, to my great friend Scott, who I've known now for almost 30 years, and we have done so much together in a professional sense, and just have laughed all the way through all of that. But he has the great radio voice, Pipes. And I'm going to have him read some of my headlines and a little bit of my text for different groups.
I read these, Jeff. It just dawned on me.
Yeah.
So are you taking credit for these? Are these your own creations?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't steal them. How many blind competition is there?
I didn't know if you had help with these. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my world is help. I call people, there's a verse in the Bible that says wisdom comes from counsel. Oh, there you go. So I'd call people, hey, how does this sound?
Yeah.
And,
that's very wise.
Yeah.
Your catchphrase that I normally see on your business cards and your websites and your magic stand was not your typical blind magician.
Right, that says a lot.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Then you had headlines for adult groups, because you perform for adult groups, kids groups, churches, but the adults, I'm reading one here. It says, a blind magician illustrates one need not possess sight to have vision.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then another one for adults is you said, who better than a blind magician to remove blindfolds and reveal the truth about disabilities?
Yeah.
Church groups. I remember one was a blind illusionist who encourages using spiritual eyes to see God while living by faith, not by sight. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the good one for the teachers, because this is how you met your wife. A blind magician inspires students to discover their own abilities. And then under that headline, it said, out of his hat, Amazing Jeffo pulls fresh surprises sure to mesmerize your students. And I thought this was good. All the while, your children will be learning about disabilities, gaining appreciation for reading, building social, emotional skills such as, this is good, respect, curiosity, mental agility, and realizing that we're all more alike than we are different.
Which is
That's so good.
Which is another APSE motto.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That was the full package right there. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And now we're going to cut to a video of Jeff performing the 3-rope trick.
When I used to perform as Amazing Jeffo, I would mention right up front in the show about my disabilities, such as rheumatoid arthritis, which has caused my hands to be all bent up. But then I would use those same bent up fingers and show 3 lengths of rope, short, medium, and long, to talk about the fact that we all have more in common with each other than the things that make us different from one another. More common, like the 3 common lengths of rope I am holding. But, it's when before I became Amazing Jeffo, I could not imagine, given my bent up fingers and history of stuttering, that I could do magic. So to invite a guy to perform with severe stuttering and a history of arthritis would be like asking a blind guy to do magic. And it's our differences that make us unique.
And now, back to the podcast.
I sent Dana some little bit of ad ideas that he said he's going to be using maybe to promote our podcast. And
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well,
Dana's our producer. For anybody out there that might not know, he makes this ship cruise and get to shore safely.
Oh, yeah, and he's only had to swim a few times.
We've only thrown him overboard just a couple times. Right?
I heard a quick story that he tried swimming across the English Channel.
Yes,
and he halfway through he realized he couldn't make it and turned back. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So yeah, thanks, Scott, for reading those as well. Did you as you like to say in your unusual endeavor, did other magicians show an interest?
Yes, and that was miraculous and a real godsend kind of thing, because when I started doing shows, it seemed like every other show I did, that organization must have advertised it or something, but I would be approached after a show by a part-time magician who really should be at work, his full-time job. But he approached me and introduced themselves, and this kept happening. I think they were kind of touched by just how a member of their society was really pushing the envelope and showing the power of magic to communicate to connect with people. Because whether you're someone like me, all performers try to connect with their audience, and so they offered to mentor me, and they would come over to my place and they would teach me magic, because I just knew nothing, and I was like an open vessel, right? A sponge, and this kept happening so many times. I mean, Scott Franz, Jeff Williams, Norm Barnhart, Sean Bailey. I could go on and on.
Wow.
They approached me, and it got to a point where I could not fit these guys all in my place at the same time. So they formed a magic group in the Twin Cities that they regularly met at restaurants.
Wow, you inspired that.
Well, I guess, yeah. I just happened to be an unwitting facilitator, I guess. Yeah. So, and much like I look at this brotherhood of mine as having adopted me, taken me under their wing, and just like that attitude, of caring and supporting me continued all the way through my marriage to Devin. They were part of the wedding reception, whether I invited them or not, which is fine, because they always plan, for more, the caterers.
Sure.
So they would stroll around people, the guest tables doing, what's called table magic.
Okay.
And which is, a big hit. And then, so much like my friends, who I encouraged to tease me and welcome them to give me a hard time, because that just gave balm to my soul, because I knew that they were looking at me as a person.
Sure. Sure.
And but that whole idea, as I mentioned earlier, really started with my family. It's like I would be in the hospital, I mentioned this earlier, like 3 months and something, and then I'd come home and it's like, oh yeah, hi Jeff. It's like, but that's okay, So at our wedding, my little niece, my sweet little 5-year-old niece, who is just adorable. She still is. She just got married.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah, she's a wonderful girl. And her middle name is Joy, and
oh, wow.
and there's no better. But she, I have a little piece that at some point we could play. I'll let our production man handle that, but it's of what Mallory's comments to the videographer about what she thought about her Uncle Jeff.
Oh boy!
And she just was just like my brothers, so it really catches you off guard and totally embarrassed her mom, which is the funniest thing on the video.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, let's cut over to that video now.
Oh, that'd be great.
And Mallory wants to say something too here, it sounds like.
Hi.
What do you like about Uncle Jeff? Say what do you like about Uncle Jeff?
I like his magic.
Magic, right? What kind of fun stuff does he do with you?
He plays Nerf guns.
Talk in there.
He plays Nerf guns.
Okay. Let's see, anything else you can think of? Okay.
Wait.
That's it.
He can't drive cars.
No.
He's blind and he got one stiff leg and stiff fingers.
Okay, that was nice. Okay.
Like I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. I feel, without my magic wand, I feel naked up here. Okay, I'll move along now. We'll get working.
Welcome back to part 2 of our episode, and thank you, Mallory, for such a fun way to lead us into break. If you want to know the truth, just ask a 5-year-old. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes. I wanted to finish up about the wedding with one more reference.
Wonderful.
We invited the magic dealer in Minneapolis to the show, and he gifted Devin and I with a collection of the finest practical jokes the industry offered, including hot candy, snap gum, dog poop, fake vomit. And yes, even the legendary Fartinator, which is kind of a cross between a Terminator and an Eliminator.
Okay.
Can I still get my hands on these products?
Well, you don't want to touch the Fartinator, but
Yeah, I got a feeling I don't.
No.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, speaking of, as I'm tongue-tied here, you did eventually, overcome your speech difficulties. Tell us more about that. How did you eventually do that?
Well, you mentioned that you're tongue-tied. I was the master of being tongue-tied. I can't tell you how many times I pulled a muscle in my tongue from stuttering. And I think I mentioned in a previous podcast, I once won a merit badge from the Cub Scouts for tying my tongue in a square knot.
Oh, boy.
But anyway, all kidding aside, in my mind, my worst, most disabling issue I had, and I certainly had a nice choice from which to choose, was stuttering, because I always had a lot to say. Everything I told you about, imagination, humor, those being in the limelight, they all are connected with, speaking, talking.
Sure.
So that just built up frustration, and it got to a point where my whole mind was kind of paranoid. And one time I was sitting at a computer that had synthetic speech, so that a blind person can be read to with a robotic voice what he has typed or what is already on the screen. Mm-hmm. And I fell asleep in front of it, and then I was awoken by who I thought was someone mocking my stuttering by repeatedly saying the same letter. Well, what happened is my hand fell down when I fell asleep on one of the keys. And
it was just repeating?
Yeah. So, what was happening in my life at that time partially helped my mindset that with my health issues, which I believe started my stuttering because they made me feel so less than normal, and put me into like a mindset of comparing myself to able-bodied. Well, no, I'm proud of who I am, proud of my uniqueness and what I can offer through that. So, but that's how I was thinking in that pit at that time. So I was feeling somewhat better because my health issues had calmed down somewhat. And one day my aunt, who worked at United Hospital for about 200 years, she told me about a department, a speech pathology department that offered therapy for all kinds of what is called dysfluency, which I'm, stuttering or people who have had strokes, cleft palate, whatever. Sure. And so I took her up on that and met a lady, and I'll mention her name because she is so fantastic, Katie Dower. And she came up with a method called passive flow, soft and slow, which has, kind of a rhythm to it, like passive flow, soft and slow. Give me some of that mojo Joe, Okay. Anyway, so it's a 3-part technique that keeps your throat open. That's the passive flow. And someone who stutters is a result. It's not a physical thing, but they have learned to let their throat close and to even close it before talking. Everyone who speaks fluently is breathing and those who aren't speaking fluently are not breathing. I mean, it's kind of like an aha moment, but
yeah.
And then to help that flow come out, a little bit of breath leadway before you utter a sound is the other components, soft and slow. So you may start off slowly like that, but it relaxes your throat,
Okay.
And then slowly is the same thing. It kind of relax, So anyway, I practiced that for 5 years and until it seemed natural to me.
Okay.
And now they really basically, the only time I stutter, and Devin tells me this, is if I lie to her.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And I say, I know it's true. And she,
So I imagine you tell the truth almost always now.
Well, now that's a lie.
Well,
Okay.
now that helps me because we play poker together.
Yeah.
So now I'll know when the lies happen.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Scott, I have a group. I just want to quickly say that I have a group I meet with, monthly. We try, of old poker guys, old friends. And anyway, who's been winning like the last 5-6 months?
You?
Every time.
Nice.
And do you know why that is? Is that I play off of the fact that they think I don't know what I'm doing. And so I bluff them, and I say, what's better, a full house or 4 of a kind?
Can I tell you a quick story? We had 6 guys around the table, and we had a new guy.
Yeah.
His name is Howard. And when he watched you win, week after week after week, he came back to me and he said, I think he's cheating. I think because we play with Braille cards.
Yeah. I got marked cards.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and then I really win when we turn off the lights. Man, I just skin them alive.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That's good stuff.
So, So I practiced passive flow, soft and slow, for 5 years, and that overlapped into the early stages of doing magic. And so, that was a lot of stress for me in the first place, doing magic, sweaty palms, and all this, and all the things to keep track of, because I had to mentally kind of segment my mind into, the magic trick physical moves, the messages, or what they call it, patter, that I tie into it. Mm-hmm. And then 3 would be my sound effects that were remotely activated in my pocket to time those out right. And then just be aware of the general, what's happening around me with, the audience. So that was just very stressful. And at first, and I remember in one of my early shows, and I'm not very proud of this, but it's reality. A little kid, because I would take questions after a show, and a little maybe second grader said, "How come when you talk you do and very very inappropriately?" I defensively said, "Well, how come you're so short?" Which wasn't very.
Didn't get a lot of laughs, I'm sure.
No. But I mean, in one sense, it's true that what I was saying inside was because that's part of me.
Sure.
And your littleness is because you're only 7 years old. That's part of you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it didn't come out right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So then I one day, which was a real breakthrough, but you didn't think of it at the time, another friend of mine named Scott, I was playing my harmonica to him over the phone, a little custom birthday song for him, and he said, "Hey, that's really good. You should blend that harmonica into your show." And it never occurred to me, so I did, and it was wonderful. Number one, because it filled time while volunteers came up on the stage. to keep things flowing. But the most important is that by all that I talked about with breathing being so important to not stutter, it was a constant reminder when anytime I played a little riff that it kept my airways open and realigned my breathing and gave me like a booster shot. And so
that's fabulous.
Could I play a little
I would
song
love that, yes.
that would be very typical to what I would play in a show? I'd say, okay, I'm looking for a 4th grade boy. Please come on up here. And I'd have helpers, you know. And then I play something like... Well, hello, what's your name? You know, like something like that.
Hi, I'm Timmy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fabulous. Wow.
Yeah.
I can hear the applause around the masses. Just fabulous.
Well, that
really good harmonica player. That's very skillful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Sometimes I would overplay, but people liked it. But I just I had to move on. But it definitely really tied the show together and personally helped me a lot with my speech.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. It's like a wonderful bridge and reinforcement to that. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us about how you sort of managed and overcame your speech difficulties, or would you like me to go into our next question?
Well, probably we can move along. Don't you think? Anything occur to you? Okay.
Yeah, Scott, we got Scott on board. Let's do this. So, what were some of the significant benchmarks in your path to employment?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can give you a little thumbnail. It kind of started with my brother Steve's new wife, who had a 2-year-old boy, and he was more like 4, and she invited me. She set up a show for her little boy Barrett's. I guess it was kindergarten or maybe preschool. I'm not sure, and it was just what my self-image needed at the time, because these little munchkins would clap even before the end of the trick, and then I'm thinking, geez, you guys haven't seen, or you ain't seen nothing yet, or how's that going?
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, right. And literally they hadn't. And then about that time, I was annually going to a Christian camp, and they had a talent night. And when they asked for volunteers who wants to do something, everyone was too shy, and out of pure desperation for attention, I can do something. So I just so happened to have brought a few magic tricks with me, in the event that, So, anyway, and it was right then he said, what should I call you? And it was right then I said, Amazing Jeffo.
Wow.
Because it was tongue-in-cheek, and I never take myself, too seriously. I'm, by nature, kind of...
Yeah, you are amazing.
I'm kind of, Jeffo. But I'm kind of in iconoclast and kind of irreverent, so I kind of try to knock down a lot of things in our society. It's my little role in life. But so I went up there and did, I don't know, 5 tricks or something. screwed up every one of them, and people laugh not because of my incompetence, but the jokes I used to cover up. I blamed the audience.
Sure.
Well, don't look at me. He screwed it up.
So your personality is growing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, plus I was kind of desperate up there, but
sounds very Smothers Brothers like.
Oh yeah, like Tommy would get all out. Yeah, right, exactly. So they love that, and a year later, I had developed, and I'll go. I'm just stepping one step ahead because at the same camp, after I had some semblance of a magic stand and tricks that I was doing in shows where I was paid by that time, I did one trick with it was crazy. It was a bowl that I cracked eggs into. And then I whipped the bowl toward the audience, to kind of like freak them out.
Sure.
But there weren't any eggs by then in there. And instead I had loaded it up with a pile of sparkly glitter confetti.
Sure.
And just by the weird torque or English in my throwing it out, the entire load landed on top of one girl's head.
Oh boy.
who I kind of liked anyway, and she knew that, and so she just kept, as she combed this stuff out all weekend, she accused me, oh, yeah, it wasn't an accident, Jeff. You did it on purpose, like I could do it ever again. It's just weird. She had this pile on her head.
Yeah.
Things have really been piling up on Kristen lately.
Oh, boy.
So at that camp, there happened to be a couple of teachers, because the group that would come up there would be invited by some staff at the U of M, who also worked at the camp. Well, anyway, these two teachers approached me later and said, we liked what we saw. And they saw horrible stuff because I screwed every trick up. But they saw something that I did not see. And they said, could you come to our school and do a show where maybe you could talk about being blind and use magic to keep the kids' attention? Well, I don't know. And they, we don't have any budget, but we could give you some petty cash in the office. Well, yeah, okay. And then a volunteer lady who would come to the apartment where I was living with my parents, she said, because I couldn't help to show her a couple of magic tricks. That's just who I am. And she said, would you ever consider going to my son's 7th grade class? And I know about 7th graders.
Oh, yeah.
And I politely deferred, and she said, well,
Turned her down.
Well, yeah. Well, he could pay you $50. And I said, $50? Well, now regarding that show that I'll be doing for your son, because, I made no money.
Money talks.
That's right.
And my dad, made a ton of money, and, so I had his precedent.
There you go.
Incorrectly probably valued myself too much by that, but I don't now, which coincides nicely with me being poor. Anyway, so I did this show, and that teacher told me before the show, he was a very sensitive guy, and he said, Jeff, don't worry about any of these 7th graders smarting off to you. I told them if they do, I'm going to grab them by there, whatever, and throw them out in the hallway. Oops, I think that's leaking or something.
And you still do shows for $50, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, but then, I was just here and there picking up little shows,
Sure.
and decided, well, my value would be 2 shows for $120.
Okay.
Oh, I can't give you that deal if you only want one show, $70. And so that's what I charged. But then eventually, over the course of time, I actually felt that I was giving special value to people with what I did. And I kept raising my fee, and it eventually got up to, well, some shows were $2,000 to $4,000.
Fantastic.
And the publicity was a big help. The free publicity I got was a huge help. Is that what you recall, Scott, from what we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got just amazing coverage of what I did from, local community papers, but also just being in the right place at the right time. A friend came home from an Army deal, and we were downtown, and I said, let me introduce you to the local magic guy at Twin City Magic, Fred Beige. And we went down there, and when we went down there, an episode of a TV show was just wrapping up, and this TV show was hosted by the famous R.J. Fritz, who used to be the sports anchor for WCCO
I remember
TV.
R.J. Fritz. Yeah,
and
I'm old enough.
Yeah, okay. And he had a human interest type of a show after the news on the weekends called Out and About.
Yes.
And so he said, and Fred Beige talked me up as, he's such a giving man. And so he came out to the World Command Center headquarters. That's my $450 apartment,
Very good.
And he did all-day story on me. We went to a magic show, and he filmed that. He had a great editor named Brian. I'm not sure. And he filmed me, and we have... let me just say that show, he told me, was their highest rated show of the 15-year career or 15-year span that this Out and About show ran.
Yeah.
And they replayed it many times. And 6 years later, I don't know who contacted who, but he wanted a follow-up. What's been Amazing Jeffo up to these days? And I think we have a piece of that along with other coverages I got. I was on all the local channels multiple times, and even the channel 45, whatever they call that, U8.
I remember,
I don't know what they call that, but and so that just set my phone a-ringing off the hook, and another real kickstart, and these two by far did the most. A writer for St. Paul Pioneer Press, Deb O'Connor, who writes human interest columns, went to a show, covered it, and when I got home, when that article came out, I had 32 calls on my voicemail. Voicemail. I thought it was broken, So I was so busy. The very first year I became Amazing Jeffo, and like I said, I'm going to try this for 1 year.
Yes.
I did 80 shows, and I was pretty proud of that. I could actually buy some audio equipment,
There you go.
Because I still lived at home. And my dad wasn't charging me yet.
Yeah.
So then the next year I did 120 shows. And then RJ and Deb O'Connor came in, And then next year, I did 360 shows.
Wow.
1 month, February, I did 42 shows.
Holy.
And 1 week in February was 17 shows. I never came home. I left at 6 o'clock, came home about midnight. And people, knew how busy I was, so I had them buy me dinner and stuff, like
Sure.
a McDonald's and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
But it was affecting your health.
well,
I
yeah,
can. That sounds pretty intense.
I know, yeah, because I just laid around. I never did anything. In fact, my biggest exercise was pulling someone's leg or something. But so I was getting dizzy, and it turned out I had like 200 over 100 something blood pressure, and so I had enough confidence then, or maybe somebody made me increase the price of my shows, which cut them to about half. But with 150 or 175 shows, I made much more money because I was generally charging in a pretty rapid progression, 150, 300, and then I even leveled out kind of for most standard shows, 400. But you know what? I did shows for whatever people could afford. Don't let that get out.
Okay, we Dana, can you make sure to edit that part out?
Yeah. And what was funny, those shows that I might do $100 for $100, I put no more effort into those than the ones I was paid $2,000. But of course I didn't share that.
It's such an amazing story. It reminds me of like those movies you watch about these, famous musicians' lives where they're just kind of grinding, and then all of a sudden, boom, they just shoot into the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
And that you were doing so many shows.
Yeah.
And in these shows, you were not only doing magic, you were blending magic with a message, right?
Right, yeah.
Could you give us like an example of how you did that?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's I had one little trick, because in the early years, especially with most of my shows being for kids, I would have a focus on what's it like to be blind. So I would start off with a trick where I'd make a big bottle of Coke disappear. I'd say, I'd like to use magic to make any misunderstandings about blindness and disability, poof, disappear, But a trick, so one of the tricks to, be more specific about educating them is I would hold a playing card up, a regular playing card, like horizontally, and I'd say, people who are legally blind, that's a term where they could tell that I'm holding something in front of me, but would not be quite sure if it was a playing card or a dollar bill. And then suddenly it would change to a real dollar bill. And then I'd say, whereas people like me who are totally blind could not tell that I'm holding anything at all in front of me, even if it were huge, and it would change to about up to maybe 10 times the size. And then I'd have to throw in I really make the big bucks, or like, and talk about inflation.
Oh boy!
Don't encourage me, Peanut Gallery.
Oh my goodness!
Okay,
so you were doing that with then all of those, increased amount of shows after R.J. Fritz, show and so forth. At that time, how would you describe your level of self-confidence?
It was soaring. It was really, because I had a system, and I could do magic. At first I started off with sweaty hands all the time, and I had to continually wipe them, or something I was holding would slip out of my hands. But then it got to a point where I got so calm that I could my hands were so dry that I'd put cream on them
Wow.
to give them a little tack. And while doing a show, I'd be thinking, let's see, when I get home, I have to be doing this, and I would be talking and doing
Yes.
and putting in the acting part of it, and and I would try to be as spontaneous as I could,
Sure.
because that's what always got the biggest laugh.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. And there were some magical moments, memories during shows that really stand out. Is this a good time to talk about that, you think?
Love to hear it. Yeah.
Well, like my level of confidence was great enough that I would just go for new ideas and just by pure chutzpah. Like one time I correctly guessed a chosen word that an audience member had picked out from a 300-page novel, and the audience went nuts, and he could not stop laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, for the whole show, because he had that nervous laugh,
Right.
Like, are you in allegiance with the devil, or something? And well, I had a deviled egg for breakfast. I don't know, but so, and then another time I was at a show. And the power went out. That happened lots of times. If it was a kid thing, I do my elephant impersonation, and I'm gonna make an elephant appear. And then these little cute kids. Yeah, I really like your elephant trick, Jeffo. But then, so the lights were out at this one camp.
Okay.
And everyone was, murmuring, and I just decided, and let there be light. And right then the light came back, And then another.
And that was just.
That was
happenstance?
coincidence.
Yeah, it was just happenstance. I had
Wow.
no control. It's just that I felt, I don't know.
You felt self-confident.
Confidence.
I love it.
And then, eventually things maybe in life kind of balance out.
yeah.
So there had been maybe enough tougher breaks, along that,
Fantastic.
And then another time, do you remember we were talking about this yesterday, Scott? Another magic memory that really stood out in my.
Are you thinking? I'm not sure what you're thinking about.
Okay, I just saw that.
But I didn't want to pass by your Craig story.
Oh, yeah, and as a result of, me just getting out there front and center, I always advertised my stuff. I could always steer the conversation. That's part of my being a manipulator,
Okay.
No, but I mean, magicians have to sort of unintentionally force a situation,
Yeah.
and lead people in a gentle way that they don't know. Okay, so I remember. I mean, I was booking shows in the just craziest, unexpected ways. Like, I was in the doctor's office waiting room, and a guy was sitting next to me who was also there for his reasons, and I booked a show with him.
Wow.
And like, you can say a topic, any topic at all, and I can quickly steer it into booking something. I do that for fun at home. But
I do tease, you're always selling.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
always-
Because, I'm self-employed. I just have to. Okay, so another show that just emerged in the most unlikely situation is I was at Shalom Home, which is a transitional care unit.
Oh, yes.
I was recovering from, I don't even remember, a rotator cuff, a broken hip, broken femur, a hip replacement, something. And I had so I was there for a number of weeks, and I had a very faithful friend who always visited me every Wednesday, which also happened to be happy hour day there. And he, where they would serve free drinks and real tasty hors d'oeuvres.
He was faithful.
Oh, yeah, I mean, what a friend.
So it's amazing this happened every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Every Wednesday, I was just, it was almost, it was an amazing coincidence. But that's what magic is, you know. And he decided one time, hey, let's take the party back to the room, play some cribbage.
Yeah.
And he brought along some of those little airline bottles of booze, you know, and started, mixing drinks. And now this guy's, really enjoys his drinks, but he's a responsible, high-functioning kind of guy.
But he's twice your size, too.
Yeah, he's like 90 pounds, and I was careless and kept pace with him, even though he was like I said, 90 pounds heavier than me.
Oh, boy.
So by the end of our game, he just very understatedly said, you sound like you just had a mouthful of dental work done. And I thought, in my state, of course, that was the funniest thing I ever heard. I just kept laughing. I gotta call Devin. She'll love this one. So I called her at home, and she said, "You're drunk. You're gonna get kicked out of there, mister, and I ain't gonna pick you up either. You better lay low." And I said, "Honey, don't worry. They won't even know it. I'm fine." So no sooner did I hang up than an aide came in and said, "Hey, we got a jazz band who's out in the parking lot, and we're taking everybody out there." And so I had a really hard time struggling in the chair, and I had like something, healing on me, so I had to be careful.
Oh, my goodness.
But I would just laugh, when I almost fell on the floor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of, my orthopedic issues. So when we got out there, the lady said, "Can I put she saw me kind of listening, "Can I put a blanket on your lap?" And I was kind of insulted because, I'm thinking, blankets are for old people. Well, when I awoke after the concert, I had a blanket on my lap. And about finally, whatever my issue was, I healed from that, and I was at a trade fair, a trade show, I guess you call it, a vendor fair where I had a booth advertising my stuff to what I did to nonprofits. And lo and behold, two nurses from Shalom came up to me. And I knew that they knew that I was schnockered. So I came clean and, told them the whole story. And they laughed so hard. They booked a show right then and there for, many hundreds of dollars. And I have to thank my old pal for leading me to his wayward, methods. Yeah. And, but something interesting, that was kind of something I observed was at the time is how differently that these nurses treated me, one as a patient. Mm-hmm. And the other way, when I was at that trade show, that they treated me very much equally because they saw me as a capable, contributing, person to society, I guess.
Sure.
And so that kind of thing is what I've tried to explode those sort of perceptions of people with disabilities, you don't have to treat them with a kid glove and so forth. And so I was getting shows out of the blue.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal. Phenomenal
it was
story.
A real blessing.
Yeah. The real life stories from Shalom Home.
Oh, yeah, and I definitely probably have a somewhat a little memory of. I mean, they probably have like
memory of you.
I'm sure they do.
Like a memorial empty booze bottle.
Oh, there you go. Yes. You know, has anybody ever approached you about making a movie of your life? Because they should.
Well, I'd
be careful.
I sure would.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying I'm the screenwriter, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, I sure wouldn't turn it down. And you know, that's why I'm so appreciative of what you're doing here, because since COVID, there has been really a lull in me, and it's like it's like what happened, or what's happening right now, is what happened when I got my stuttering under control.
Wow.
Did I tell you that story about what my dad said? I think I did, when I was at stuttering class.
I think so.
Yeah. He doesn't need stuttering class. He stutters just fine.
Oh, yes, I remember that line.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, anyway, when I finally, practiced enough to smooth things out, it's like I had all this verbal backlog.
Sure.
That I was spewing out, and like people had a duck. And well, the same thing has kind of happened with COVID. I have a compromised immune system, and so I could not be doing shows for hundreds of people and touching them, shaking them. So you guys are like the people who have opened up the fire door to look what's on the other side and find there's a real blazing.
What's on Jeffo's mind?
Yeah.
Well, I am not only happy we could do that. I feel very lucky that we could be part of this. I don't know. Do you want me to coming back out party, if you will?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but
I'm not sure either.
But I had a vision, and when a blind guy has a vision, you better
look out.
Yeah, you better no. But I think you fellas could, with what you're doing for people who are, I'll say, conduits to facilitate people such as myself to experience a real life, to a fully realized life. That what we've been doing with these podcasts could be made into some kind of documentary, and who knows what would happen from there. So, anyways, I'm open to anything.
Yeah. We firmly believe that we're all human, and that just because someone might have a challenge that they live with does not make them any less human, any less capable, any less part of our world and our society, or less valuable. Absolutely.
And maybe in some respects more valuable because of the rare perspective that they have, and that we don't take in general things for granted.
Absolutely.
I love going out in the backyard on our deck smelling the lilacs. I love hearing. Oh yeah, the birds. We have 4 bird feeders out there. I like going to Twins games, not because of all the things I can't see, but there's so much I can appreciate. The smells, the food, the energy, the cheering.
Oh, yeah. And there's such a quintessential vibe at a ballpark.
Right. Dun, 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 dun.
I really appreciate that. So you've talked, through our conversation at different times about, some of the wonderful things, or the pros, if you will, of becoming a magician. Maybe you can lay out a few more things for us. So what you really consider some of the pros that came with being a magician. Sorry, not a musician. That was a Freudian slip on my part.
Oh, that when I would be introduced,
Yes.
people so commonly when they read my intro would say that, and then I'd say, "Oh no, it's fine. I play harmonica, so I'm really a musician."
Thank you. You are
a musician.
You are a musician.
Yeah.
And if you could get the comedy in there too, maybe we could have quite the word.
Yeah. It's hard to tell jokes when I'm playing, though.
Yeah.
Although there is a tie-in because my jokes suck and blow.
And I'm not sure what you mean by that, but let's talk about some of the other positives of becoming a magician.
Go back to the kids.
Yeah. One time, Scott and I were at a show, and we were going at night to the casino in a legal town in I don't know, Louisiana somewhere.
Okay.
And
Shreveport.
Okay, and
boy.
And the hotels, which I'll be talking about, supplied free bus to go back and forth, and like this bus was like the seat was up to here, you know,
my goodness, yeah.
And so the driver was this big guy, and he'd just pick me up and and put me next to him in the driver's seat. Well, one time we got to the hotel and they were having like a hurricane, and we needed to get inside fast, and Scott was outside, and I said, "Okay, Scott, here, what you gotta do is you gotta hold, and he said, "Ow," and he just grabbed me and, hauled me down, and there really was a hurricane. We got in, we sat in the lobby, like, probably 75 feet.
From the door.
Yeah, from the door, and anytime someone came in, we got soaked.
Oh my goodness! This wasn't Katrina, was it?
I don't
know.
No. It was something else. It was. I think it was Jeffrey.
Okay.
A real.
Yeah, it was Jeffrey.
A real bag of wind. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Sorry. But so
children.
Oh yeah. Oh, children. That's when I think
funny
of
things kids say.
Oh yeah. When I think of pros, I just can't help but. The sweet children's comments, because I have like 12 nieces and nephews.
Oh, wonderful.
And when we'd have family parties, I would stay away from the adults because they were bores. And I would play with the kids, and they loved me. I was the Pied Piper. And so I would, get all these comments after a show from kids like, like one kid one time came up to me and flipped a quarter on my magic stand. He said, "Here's a tip." And I said, "Oh, you don't have to give me a tip. Don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from." Or another time, a kid came up to me, a real cynical kid, and said, "I don't think you're really blind. If you're really blind, because you can't do this stuff. If you're really blind, then how many fingers am I holding up?" So then I say, 12? Wow, you really are blind. And then like another kid came up, and because I used to sell a little merch after the shows, little magic tricks, and this little girl said, "This trick isn't working. Can you tell me what the magic words are again?" Mm-hmm. And then another time, a little boy came up who's looking at his little package that where you can take 2 sponge rabbits, put them in someone's hand, and 4 little babies come out.
Okay.
Or no, 5 babies come out. And so he's reading what the package says, with great consternation in his voice. 2 + 2 = 5. And he looked up, "Does it? Does it?" His whole reality of what he learned was kind of bogus, he thought. And then one other time, I remember a kid with like way more chutzpah than me. He was like 9 years old maybe. And he called me up and he wanted to, unbeknownst to his parents, book me for a magic show, and then like as if, I go there, do the show, And then, oh, you don't have any money? Oh, But I said, and then I said, well, could I talk to your dad or mom? I am the dad. And I said, well, how come your voice is so high? Because I was in a car accident and it wrecked my throat. And I said, oh, I see. Well, could I talk to your mom? No, she died in the car accident. And I said, well, who's that lady? I hear in the background, Danny, are you on the phone again? And he's, oh, well, that's my grandma's, that's my grandma's mom or something,
Oh, boy.
So just real funny little things like that.
Great memories from the kids. What are some of the other lasting performance memories you've had?
Well, just that I had so many opportunities to, like, for instance, through magic, I met my childhood and really my idol as a big Twins baseball fan, Harmon Killebrew, Hall of Famer,
yes,
one of the truly greats of all time.
Greats, yes.
I did a fundraiser for the Twins, and he was there, and Frank Quillisi, if you remember that name.
I do, absolutely.
Oh, what a nice guy. He was up there on stage hugging me. Hey, let's have a hand for this guy. And like I had the worst laryngitis I ever had in my life.
Oh, boy.
That was my 5th show that day.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I had to kind of switch around my show and just do it, visually as much as I could.
Yeah.
But I mean, such nice people, those old Twins,
Yeah, they were amazing. I've always heard that about Harmon. What a special memory.
Yeah. He rented, just a quick little side story.
Yeah.
He, in the Vietnam years, a neighbor of ours went to Vietnam to be a doctor for, a year, and Harmon had a severe foot injury and was off that season, and he lived in this doctor's house. And my dad was talking to a friend of his one night, and I overheard this conversation saying, and they were having drinks and stuff, and he says, and maybe many drinks. Yeah, Carmen Hillebrew lives up the street, and he's, no way. Yeah, here, let's go up there and I'll introduce you to him. So they went up there, and Harmon opens the door, and he's wearing his underwear. Harmon, but he's just a nice gentleman.
Just a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
So, and then other highlights. I also met Vike. I'm doing the same thing as my dad.
Saints?
Yeah, Mike Veek.
Exactly. Yep.
And he
Mike
hired me. He owns the St. Paul Saints.
I remember,
along with Bill Murray from Saturday Night Live, and he was particularly drawn to me because his daughter at the time was going blind.
Okay,
and his father, Bill Veck, owned the Chicago White Sox, and he had a prosthesis for a leg.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Did I ever tell you that I dated a woman with a wooden leg?
No, I don't believe you did.
I broke it off. Okay. If you laughed at all of them, you'd hyperventilate. Okay. So, but that was neat. He had a real tender heart, Mike.
Yeah.
And then another highlight. Are we talking highlights?
Well, some of the highlights and maybe even what your greatest satisfaction was of becoming amazing Jeffo.
Oh yeah. Well, before I talk about that, because it's a larger subject, is that I had a chance to be contacted by America's Got Talent.
Okay.
By one of their producers to come to Chicago for a very special audition, along with 4,000 other people. And I assembled Team Jeffo.
Oh, boy.
That consisted of the great Scott. here as my, keep me loose.
Yeah, yeah.
A guy named Craig, who was the grunt who hauled
He was
all.
your faithful friend.
Okay.
Oh, well, let's not, tie him into too much.
Kind of a gopher.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he hauled in all my gear, and and then Devin, of course, was my emotional support and my hair fluffer.
Very nice.
So some other magic friends of mine who used to come over to the house before it got overwhelming and they went on to form their own club, they helped me write a 90-second audition because that's what the show has.
Wow.
And they loved it. They had a head producer come in and watch it. And so I thought, oh, man, I'm on my way. $1 million. It's just a matter of time. And it never worked out. But,
okay.
I didn't care because it was such a great experience.
Yeah,
it was the first time that I really, with the support of Team Jeffo, stretched myself and went out of the state and with a high-stress situation because you're on, TV. And
that must have been just really intense.
Oh, yeah, but it was good.
Yeah.
And after, that was actually my 50th birthday that very night.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we went to the restaurant called The Billy Goat, which was actually the inspiration for the Saturday night skit series early on, like with Belushi and Aykroyd, where they would go into a restaurant owned by a Greek family, and this is what it was actually based on. And the person says, I'll take a Coke and a ham sandwich. No Coke, APSE, no ham sandwich, cheeseburger. Okay, well then my friend and I will have, let's say, a couple Pepsis and 3 cheeseburgers. Or he'll have 2. Okay, and then the guy, calls back to the kitchen. APSE, cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah.
APSE, cheeseburger.
I remember that skit well.
Dude.
Oh, yeah.
So we filmed it. And
that's amazing.
And this ownership was so nice.
Wow.
I told them what I wanted to do. So, they didn't mind me teasing them about this. So we repeated this. Oh, I'll take a Swiss on rye or whatever,
Yeah.
So that was really fun.
Oh, that's great. Is that restaurant still there?
I don't know, but I have a T-shirt.
Yeah.
A Billy Goat. Yeah.
Billy Goat. And that's in Chicago, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
It's near the convention center.
Good.
That's all I know.
Maybe our producer will Google it for us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I should mail you my T-shirt and you can show it. But it's kind of smelly. Anyway.
Oh, well,
so,
on that, please do.
Yeah, and then things just started popping and, new exciting adventures. And I was, having self-discoveries about myself and pushing the envelope a little bit. But my greatest impact... satisfaction was how magic steered me into the arms of Mrs. Amazing, who has been blind to my disabilities and maintains my good hair.
Yes.
And you're probably thinking, gee, he sure is talking about his hair a lot. But
I'm a little jealous, since I don't have any.
Well, that's okay because I make too big a deal about it. So
I think I did say it was very Fonzie-like last time.
Yeah, and it's becoming less Fonzie, more fuzzy as time goes on. But so Devin, as we talked about earlier, was the head of the school-age child care program, and I have to admit, it wasn't love at first sight. But in our 21 years of marriage, I now read her like a book, a Braille book. Wink, wink. Is this a family show? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry.
Not anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Maybe Charles Manson family, but that's about it. But Devin has just really fulfilled my deepest longings, and she when we after we married, I remember listening on my phone to a newspaper article, because blind people have a service that they can use. They just punch in buttons, and the synthetic voice reads articles about a couple who met in an unusual way. And, me being Mr. Competitive, I said, our marriage is more interesting than these Gomers. So I called the same.
No offense.
Yeah, well, I mean, my favorite show is Gomer Pyle.
Don't get me going on Gomer Pyle.
Oh yeah, golly. So they sent a reporter out who did a story, and we have that in your system.
Okay.
So as I'm talking about it here, maybe hopefully the picture can change to my lovely Devin wearing her wedding gown and read the article.
Definitely. We'll look that up.
Devin has just been so integral in my life. She, from the very get-go, because she lived next door to someone who was blind, who did his own mowing and maintained his house. She never gave it a second glance, no pun intended, regarding my special differences, or I think I called them my positive. I forgot what I called them earlier, but so she used to say to me, well, she was full of good ideas to help someone like me who was living with rheumatoid arthritis. She said, I've read it's really good for people who have RA to immerse their hands in warm dishwasher or dish water while they're doing dishes. And I said, And then she said,
pretty.
Yeah, and then she said, I also read that it's really good for range of motion to fold laundry and to put it away. And I said, well, how is putting laundry away therapeutic? She's going to get back to me on that one. So in 19...
you match made in heaven.
Yeah, she is so funny.
Yeah, I can tell.
I'm going to give you examples of this.
Yeah.
In 2015, she retired early.
Okay.
Because of the combination of just craziness happening in her department, and the fact that was my toughest physical year in decades, and so much happened to me. So I thank God that she was there for me. For example, because of these reoccurring stress fractures in my broken leg, I had to stay in a recliner for 2 weeks straight. And that meant I had to give Devin a new handle, Bedpan Betty. Yeah, and I ate there, I slept there, etc. And other things were happening to me suddenly at that time. And that was one issue that, because Devin was there, it stabilized me and didn't, it didn't frustrate me to no end. But it definitely was an interference with my my booming career at that time.
Sure.
And
a real roadblock.
Oh yeah, because in 2006, I with my co-author of the first book, Seeing Light in the Darkness, we assembled speeches or an organization called DATS, DATS.
Okay.
Stood for Disability Awareness Training Seminars, and we wrote all kinds of speeches, and later those speeches provided me material to write my book like 3-4 years later. And it took 1 year to write the book, and Devin edited it a whole year later. But Devin and I were excited about going out to get together to do DATS presentations.
Sure.
Because she has that actual formal education, that scholarly research mind, and I'm just there for laughs. No. I mean, I was there as a case study.
Combination, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, as a case study, and it wasn't exactly, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, but it was so. But those dreams were crushed, along with our car, in a terrible highway accident. A car hit her at highway speed, and she, from that, acquired a it's called a traumatic brain injury, TBI.
Sure.
And that was a big blow, but I wasn't as concerned that, it affected the DATS program, but I was concerned for her, and I was concerned that she was frustrated by the effects of the TBI. I'm just adjusting here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But, even though she couldn't go and help me with this disability awareness training, she helped me in so many other ways, in my writing, in my posting, in just idea creation. Because as much as those effects of TBI have changed her life, and what I'm talking about are, she has balance issues, she has vision issues, she has memory issues, and she has energy limits.
Okay.
And once that energy is gone, even if it's 10 a.m., it's gone for the whole day.
Okay.
It's not like, well, just rest for a while.
Sure.
So, but, her humor that she uses to deal with her issues, I think, is, like in my case, therapeutic, and it makes her have a sense of being more the master of her circumstances, and by poking fun at it rather than the other way around.
It takes away the power.
Yeah, exactly. It empowers her.
Yes.
So she has told me, she said, because of the effects of TBI, if I do a kind of a gross motion, my brain starts to spin. And so the closest I come to a thrill ride is putting on my pants. And then another time we were watching TV, and it was just too loud,
Yeah.
And Devin said, "Alexa, volume down. Alexa, volume down." And then she realized, that the TV is not Alexa.
Oh,
And then
Alexa, yeah.
Yeah, and then she sighed, and she says, in life, it's more important who you say something to than what you say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
so
which
true.
is kind of philosophical.
Yeah, very philosophical.
Yeah, and then just one more that I just think, it was late, and she said, "Hey, it's late. It's time for bed. You snapped through the whole movie." And I said, "Snapped?" She said, "Well, I meant to say snored, and then in my mind, I changed it to nap, and it came out snap. I'm sorry if you can't understand my new language." So
you two certainly are kindred spirits.
Oh,
it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah. And she continued to help me in whichever way she could. She
Sure.
couldn't travel with me, but Scott has a little story about how she's been a big help from home.
Yeah.
She assisted us.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it quick here.
Okay.
We were on one of those journeys going by car.
Okay.
We were headed for Pittsburgh, if I
Okay.
remember right. And I enjoy traveling with Jeff. I don't have to do much talking, obviously. But we were listening to music, and we were debating about,
Everything.
world philosophy, whatever.
Sure.
And obviously, I lost track, and I wasn't looking at the navigation, and so we were lost. And so we called, wherever we were, we called back to Devon, and with some calculations, she did some online calculations and told us, "Here's your problem, fellas. You guys are in the wrong state. You're in Kentucky."
Oh my goodness!
We had totally messed up.
You were on your way to Pittsburgh.
And we missed,
via Kentucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she was able to get us back on.
Yes,
track.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like air traffic control.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
amazing.
Yeah, and because Devin was home, had retired early, it was just something that I guess my body might have said, "Oh, good, I can relax now," and fall apart because and we have a tight little house, and a friend of mine who was preparing something for a show or something left the suitcase in the doorway, and I distracted her, so it was my fault. And I tripped over that, and I knocked myself out.
Oh,
and fell on my head, and I was out for 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time.
Yeah, and when I woke up, I was in an ambulance, being taken for observation, and I remember Devin saying, "I'll get down there as quick as I can." And then me yelling back, kind of like what I was talking about before, "Be sure you bring some of my books and my audio recordings." And, I actually sold some in ER as we
goodness.
Waited there hours for a room to open up.
Oh.
Yeah. And then as a result of that fall, I didn't realize it, but, of course I had a concussion. But that night I went to Mall of America stupidly, walked around and whatever, and maybe that had started a brain bleed.
Oh, jeez.
And 1 month later, I was coming home from a show with a friend, and I said, "Oh, Carl, open up the window. I'm so..." And that's the last I remember. And I woke up again in an ambulance, and I was on like a frequent flyer program because I was lying down. Anyway.
So they punched your card, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they were getting well used to me. And my brother Mike was in the ambulance with me because he happened to be a cop on the South St. Paul beat at the time, and he heard about this accident over his police radio, so he zoomed over there. It kind of chokes me up, to talk about that. But he was there, and then I went unconscious again.
Wow.
And but I went on a medication to heal the bleeding, and its side effect it warned about it causes anger and inhibition. Like just what I need. So Devin said to me, Now, don't think you can take advantage of this side effect and get by with, I'm on to your tricks, mister.
Yeah, well, that is, that's an amazing story, and you two certainly have very similar senses of humor. In the little time that we have left, Jeff, I'd love you to tell us about sort of how you became an author, some of those origins, and then any other conclusive thoughts. And of course, we'll give you a chance to sell your products too.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I wish I hadn't given you a free book. No, I'm just kidding. But could I really quickly mention one story? It's very interesting about how all these shows opened up, and I got a call to do like 5 shows at a magic convention event in Virginia. And of course, Scott said he could drive me there. And the client told us that the hotel, a major chain, would be included in the fee. And great. So we get there, and the client meets us out in the parking lot. He asks us to come to the back parking lot and says, if you fellas wouldn't mind, just kind of keep a low profile this whole week. And Scott says, well, okay, how come? Well, my brother is a higher up for this major hotel chain.
Oh, boy.
And because we couldn't afford to pay you for all that additional hotel lodging. And so we kind of want the staff here to sort of assume that you're, from the corporate higher up section of this. So, if he had only asked us to try to be as humanly as possible obvious about that we're not, corporate muckety-mucks, that would have been no problemo. But the very first night, so we checked out the next day venue and came home and ready to unload at the back door, and it locks at 10 o'clock. So Scott hauled all my junk through the front door, all my cases on wheels, and he was just hoping that they would think, that we were from, corporate testing out a new ice machine for the hotel. And it was a very rainy week, so every time I left, I had to find a door that had an awning, so my outfit and, my hair wouldn't get wrecked. Well, that happened to be the front door. Oh my God. So the staff would see me leave, in this glittery, loud,
sure,
and anything but what is corporate business attire.
Right.
Well, and then it was nonstop for about 2 days, and Scott said, I need a break. Let's just go down in the lounge, have a few drinks, a couple drinks. Well, this coincided with Scott, who just at that point had started imbibing for the first time in his life. So the next morning in a hotel room, we were awakened by a call from the staff who's saying, Sir, we have your socks and shoes down here. Would you like to pick them up? And then lastly, we were preparing a big trick I had custom made for the grand finale, and which had a part of it was to fill it with gunpowder.
Oh.
And it had a short in the wire. So as Scott would load it, he kept igniting it like 3 times. We had big bursts of black smoke in the hotel room.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, Scott, if we haven't made it clear enough that we're anything but corporate types, I think setting off the smoke alarm should just about do her.
Sure sounds like you accomplished the mission.
Yeah, well, yeah, the shows went great, and
I love it.
so so you asked me
to
kind
your
of
book.
more. Well, my book, the inspiration for my book was that even as a little precocious fellow, I would think to myself, when I was like 7, 8, 9,
Sure.
I've had some weird things happen to me, and I love going to the hospital. It's so fun. If I could somehow have someone write a book about this, it'd be really fun. Well, I met a guy, John Earhart, the co-author of Seeing Light in the Darkness, and he was in a professional job transition. He had a background as an English and speech teacher, and he said, your magic show is great, but your story is so much more interesting. I'm going to be coming over there every morning at 6 a.m. I'm going to teach you how to drink coffee, and we're going to write speeches. And those speeches, just a few years later, became material to use in my autobiography.
Wow.
And since then, I've written 2 more books because challenges continue, to happen with Devin and me, and we write about them in as humorous a way as possible. And one book, real quick, is called is called Splashes of Laughter in the Storm.
Okay.
Seeing the funny in life's tumbles and trials. And that's what I talked about earlier.
Sure.
And it's a picture of us in the sea, the ocean, with life preservers on that say SS humor, because that's what keeps us afloat.
That's what keeps you afloat.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And then the last book, the most current book, is called The Will to Laugh. Seeing the will to laugh on the brink of irrational optimism. And there's a picture, it's a cartoon of Devin and I dangling from a rope that's burning above us, and there's a big flame licking right below our feet, and we're smiling, and there's a little fire truck up in the corner racing to us. So that's why we have that optimism.
There you go.
And so those books reflect more up-to-date events in our life and how we interpret them.
Yeah.
And
now we're going to cut to a short snippet from Jeff's autobiography.
Chapter 37. Old Methods Make a New Man. As a Christian, I don't believe in superstition, coincidences, or jinxing, but their irony certainly makes life more interesting. In the spring of 1973, I remember thinking en route to a routine annual checkup with Dr. Thompson, my orthopedic specialist, that it had been like 3 years since I had my last operation. Seeing me walk to the exam table, the doctor said, "Jeff, I don't remember you having this limp. I'd like you to try straightening your right leg." I couldn't, nor could I straighten my right hip. This constriction in my knee and hip had come about as a result of my decision 2 years earlier to replace my orthopedic shoes that had a 2-inch lift with stylish regular shoes. But style always comes with a cost. "You have some scoliosis in your back," Dr. Thompson assessed after examining me. "Has your back been hurting?" "Well, maybe a little." "Don't you have a lift for that shoe?" he asked. "I used to have one," I responded, avoiding any self-incriminating details. The doctor replied, "The ligaments in your hip and knee have constricted from walking without a lift in the shoe of your shorter leg. I'd like to release the ligaments so you can walk more comfortably." In June of 1973, I was admitted to Midway Hospital in St. Paul. Except for a 2-week period between surgeries that released knee and hip ligaments, I would spend the entire summer of 1973 in the hospital. Thompson had researched and discovered a ligament releasing technique from 1923 that he decided was the most suitable for my condition. Ironically, we used old information to move forward in my recovery. I was admitted to Midway Hospital in St. Paul the afternoon prior to surgery. As x-rays and other preparation were taking place, I noticed the young and outgoing staff. Even the few staff over age 30 assumed the hip, relaxed nature of their juniors. It was easy joking and hanging around with them as many spent their break time in my room. Despite all the pain, sweat, and tears that would be part of my recovery, meeting Kathy Johnson, a nurse's aide at the time, made up for it all. Kathy and I instantly hit it off. Since the average age on an orthopedic floor in that era was somewhere between 70 and dead, Kathy couldn't have been more tickled about working with a patient closer to her age. She was 18 and I was 16. I brought the average age of the floor down to 65. From day one, we began teasing one another. I pretended to have a photographic memory, which she fully believed and still believes to this day. I had just completed listening on tape to the book How to Develop a Superpowered Memory by Harry Lorraine. It taught me some relatively easy methods for memorizing a grid of 100 squares, each containing a random 4-digit number. I used these techniques to convince her of my ruse. Go ahead. Say any 4-digit number on this grid, and I will tell you the corresponding letter and number, I boasted to Kathy. First, I'm going to tell you the letter and number, and you tell me the digit, she said. The method in the book worked either way. I smiled and told her the 4-digit number. No way, Kathy yelled. This not only jump-started our friendship, but also opened the door to meeting the rest of the staff on the floor. Kathy dragged just about every one of them into my room. Go ahead, try to stump him, she challenged. I can reassure the reader that this feat had nothing to do with intelligence or possessing a photographic memory. I have just always liked entertaining people.
And now, back to the podcast.
But did you want sort of a wrap-up conclusion?
Yeah, love to kind of, leave the audience with any of your, final thoughts.
Sure. Well, thanks. It's what Devin and I have gone through in our lives is we have learned that we grow from hardship. Mm. And you can't learn the truths we've learned from a book or at school. And we have, with all the lows and blows in my life, I don't regret them at all because they have given me a chance to discover my God-given abilities, gifts that I have used to perform and encourage other people in ways I could have, not even said by words.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so as we look at when life sometimes pops our bubble, we remind each other that to look through the lens of our blessings, which are many, many, many. And when I wrote, and that kind of ties in with the book was revealing to me my autobiography, because as I wrote it, I realized, and not really until then, that my disabilities and various diseases ignited laughter, healing, and hope in my life. That was a huge encouragement to me and other people.
Yeah, that is so beautifully stated.
Well,
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
I just have. Oh, you have something for me?
Yes, I have
Okay, I did
something
have
very-
one final question for you,
Oh,
too.
yes. Well, I'll dig out my little
right.
prize for you. What's your question?
Well, I just wanted to ask if you're available for speaking engagements.
Oh, yes, I am. I want people to, through my experiences, I want to share with them the importance of, when you're facing challenges, the importance of attitude. Now, it's not going to make the problem go away. You're still going to be facing that problem, but with attitude that includes, if that attitude will put into a framework, the support that comes from encouragers, it's really going to carry you through, and I can testify to that. And so I'm open to any kind of opportunity to talk about my life, and do it as humorously as possible,
Well, I think
because
we have no doubt about that.
everyone loves to laugh.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a reason they say it's the best medicine. So if somebody wants to book you, what should they do?
Well, just send me the money, and then I'll get around to it someday.
Tell them your email.
Yeah.
And
Right. Okay. Well, I do have a website called AmazingJeffo.com, and
AmazingJeffo.com.
it has all kinds of information in there about me and what I can offer. And I'm also, my books are on Amazon.
Okay.
But you can buy them through my website too, because they have long titles.
All right. So everybody out there, remember that AmazingJeffo.com.
Yes,
not the
That's right.
AmazingJeffo.com.
That's right. And because I'm so grateful to you and Dana opening up a little opportunity for me, I have for each of you couple of things. An amazing Jeffo
my goodness.
free ticket. I would like you to read that.
Wow.
Out loud.
All right. Well, you want me to read it out loud?
Yes, sir. It's a free ticket.
Well, it says, this is a free ticket. You cannot get anything for this, but it is a free ticket.
And Chris, no need to thank me. It's really nothing. I mean, really. And then I also have for you an amazing Jeffo.
Oh, I love it,
#1 assistant. I'm probably holding it upside down. Sticker. I want you to.
That's okay. I
just
spend
slap
most of my
that
life upside down.
Yeah, you're right. Just slap that on yourself.
Oh yeah.
And now that you have this on you, I want you to take a solemn oath.
Okay.
Because of the magic secrets you may have seen today. So put your hand over your heart, your left heart, and repeat after me. I hereby promise to never ever tell that. Hey, that was my stutter. Okay. The secrets I have learned today.
The secrets I have learned today. Sorry, I was just repeating. I apologize.
Yeah. And if I do tell...
it's
kind of like when I nod my head, you hit it. Yeah. Okay. And if I do... The hairs in my nostril... will shoot out of my nose... and my lips will swell so large.
They will
swallow my face. Yes. So another.
I'm a little scared.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a threat. If I
let's be clear about that.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm not killing you. Okay. But I also want to quickly mention for further laughs, people can look at TikTok and the other social medias for little what I call disabling humor and out of sight observations that I make on there.
Very good. Very good.
And that's just, I think.
Can I take my hand off my heart now?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Please.
just making sure.
Yes.
So you're on TikTok?
Yes.
And what else?
Well, Facebook, Instagram. I'm just going to crank it up. I have about 50 or 60 on those things, but I haven't submitted for quite a while. But next week I'm going to start again. And it's a cheaper way to make another book, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
I love it.
pretty
I
funny.
love it. Well, thank you for the sticker and for the useless free ticket. Appreciate that.
Yes, and then I also have for you, Chris.
Oh,
yes, and more than that, I also have for you a freebie here.
Okay.
It is. Well, it's somewhere around here. Yeah, I had it before I left. Maybe it disappeared.
This is even better than the free ticket.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what I had in mind. It is. Oh, here it is. A little freebie for you.
Oh, great.
Chris. Here,
A little
show
freebie.
It. Yeah, here, show it to the camera.
Oh yeah. Hopefully I'll
A little
put it the right
freebie.
way.
Yeah.
Is that the right way? Oh, good.
Yeah.
I got a freebie. A freebie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, wink, wink. Okay.
Can I, seriously though, can I keep this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I could have given you a black eye, too. A black eye.
Oh, man, that would take me back to high school.
But that's, kind of mean.
Yeah.
And now we're going to cut to Jeff with 3 recent videos that he's made for his page, The Amazing Jeffo, on TikTok.
This is my very first video. Despite being 100% blind, I'm filming this all by myself. How am I doing? After my last video, my wife said she's gonna help me out just a little bit, at least in the beginning. On the bright side, she also said I'm the main clog in this household. She explained later that CLOG is an acronym for Crazy Old Guy. I actually was fired once because of my eye condition. I couldn't see getting to work on time.
And now, back to the podcast.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much, and Scott, thank you for coming along for the ride, as well. And you've had an incredible life, and you're an incredible storyteller, which only embellishes all the great and wonderful things that you have to say. Do you mind if I just kind of close this out here?
Well, no, but I just want to thank you two one more time.
Yeah, please.
And for giving me a chance to speak to groups like yours as Jeff, not Amazing Jeffo, because as Jeff, it's a natural extension to my messages that that are beyond anything I could say within a magic show. So I really enjoy this new role.
I appreciate that. And I hope it's not too cute for me to say that I think Jeff, the person that you are, is just as amazing as the Amazing Jeffo.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You
and
silenced me.
Yeah, well, that might be a first.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me. You tell me.
I'm speechless. Let me go.
Speechless?
Yeah,
Well,
let me go in.
let's
cut.
Let's keep that thought.
Yeah, let me tell you how speechless I am.
There you go. Yeah. So I just want to close out as we always do. You faithful listeners out there know what's coming next, but I don't think you'll find two people that really live this phrase more than Jeff and Scott do. Just remember out there, if you believe it, you can achieve it.
If you've stuck around through the credits, enjoy one last trick from the amazing Jeffo.
There were some dark times in my life, but friends, family, and faith helped me to see light in the darkness that changed my life and gave it color.
Contact Jeff for speaking engagements at AmazingJeffo.com.